So embroidery quilting, it's fairly new, but adding trapunto is a very old technique. Can we marry the two? Can we make a raised effect in our quilting using our embroidery machines to get a really beautiful embroidered design? Well, of course we can. I'm Kathy, this is Sewing Tech Talk, and we're going to take the old and make it new. So yes, we're going to take a kind of an old technique, trapunto. I think I did some research on it, and I think it's the Italian word for quilting. But what it is doing the quilting on the quilt, but having a raised effect. And it's pretty simple to do with machine embroidery. Basically, if you are doing something, an embroidered block that's quilted, well, all you really need to do is add dense quilting around it, and it kind of puffs it up. But if you want that extra raised effect like I did on this quilt, then you need to add extra batting behind those areas. And it's super cool to be able to do that with IQ Designer. We're going to go to the machine and I'm going to show you how I did that in just a little bit. But let me show you this quilt. And oh my gosh, the possibilities are amazing. So for this quilt has like a fun little block, and I did another video where I talked about doing applique and doing the perfect corners. So I had this block, and I set it with alternating blocks that were not it. But I thought, wouldn't it be great to have like a ghost block? In other words, take this design and make it quilted in the other block, so it looks like it's kind of there, but it's kind of not there. So, and then this was added with that raised trapunto effect. So basically, I wanted to show you this quilt to show you that this is the technique. This is the step-by-step. Now, I have a handout, and the handout's we're going to unpack a lot of information and hopefully a lot of inspiration today. So I wanted to have I always have a handout for my videos, but I wanted you to have the handout that takes you through step-by-step, so you can watch and be inspired and then go get the details in the handout. So this quilt, what you do is when you create that trapunto effect, you're going to have to add extra batting underneath the areas that you want raised. So basically what I do is I come in and I stitch around using embroidery, stitch around the area with some batting on the back. What does that look like? Well, that looks kind of like this. So here's the block. It's been stitched down over the batting, and then you cut away using applique scissors. You cut away the extra batting, leaving only the batting where you want it to be to add that raised effect. Now in this case, I put in a red bobbin so that you could see, but generally you're just going to use a matching bobbin thread, so it's not going to show to the back of the quilt. Here's the other awesome technological magic. For the top stitching, you use wash away thread. So it stitches on the top, but after you're done quilting, you don't have to worry about that extra stitching. You just get the block wet and the thread just goes away with water. I use this a lot. It's great for basting. It's great for a lot of things. One thing I want to remind you of is if you are using wash away thread, you want to make double sure you're only using that for the technique that you want to use it for. So I have a little baggie that I keep it in, and I take it off the machine immediately after I'm done using it. For some techniques, I use a bobbin, and for that, what I do is I put some nail polish on there to remind myself this is wash away thread, because it's going to work, but the first time you get the item or the project wet, it's going to come all apart. So don't piece your quilt with this. So wash away thread is key to this technique. And if you live in a humid area, you definitely want to keep it in a baggie, because humidity in the air, the moisture, it's not so good for it. So I talk about that in the handout as well. So that's this technique, and I showed you this whole quilt, and I've done some extra batting in these areas. Once I get that done, that is done well, let me show you. Let me bring up a visual. So we're going to do a little dinosaur today. We're going to do a built-in design on the machine. And I wanted to show you that also because we're only going to use part of the dinosaur embroidery. So that means that you can take your embroideries and give double use out of them, because I can take that regular dinosaur embroidery and turn it into a design, easy for me to say, dinosaur quilt design. Okay, so now here is this first thing that I'm doing. This on the top, I've taken the outline. I'm going to show you that in the machine. I've taken the outline of the dinosaur embroidery and I've stitched it using wash away thread just through the top layer of fabric. And in the back, I have added, well, in this case, I've added polar fleece. Now, traditionally, what you're going to do is you're going to add just some batting, and it can be a scrap of batting. But if you do use polar fleece, it's all so fluffy, and what the effect you get is you get like a color coming through. So when I do my dinosaur, I'm going to get a little bit of green coming through to look inside that outline quilting. Imagine the projects that you can do. The inspiration for this is amazing. So once you do the stitching with wash away thread, you come on the back, take your applique scissors and very carefully cut away all outside of that outline. On the back, I've used traditional thread, obviously, and then you're going to put it back into the machine, and then you're going to stitch it with the batting and the backing layered, and that way you're going to be doing your entire embroidery quilting. Like I said, handout takes you through all the steps. Now, on this quilt, this has all been done ahead of time. So how do I do that? Well, we're going to be working on the Baby Lock Altair today, and it has something pretty cool. There's an app associated with it called IQ Positioning. So what does that mean? That means that after I do all these individual embroideries, take them out of the hoop, do my trimming, I'm going to have to come back in and do my quilting, aren't I? Well, what happens with the app is when you place it inside the hoop, you take a picture with your mobile device and it literally sends how it's hooped to the machine. So you can see to place everything absolutely perfectly, which is what you need. You're going to be stitching the quilting design directly on top of what you've done the pre-work with the Trapunto. Pretty neat, right? Now, other supply I want to tell you about while we're here is when I'm doing this, when I'm taking the picture of this particular block, then the wash away thread comes in white, and this is a very light background. So taking the picture means that I'm not going to see this very well because it's a picture of white on white, right? So what I do is I take a removable marker. This is a friction pin. This is a wash away marker. And I come in and I make some marks so that I'm going to be able to see that image when it goes to the machine. If it's a dark background, then I use a chalk marker and I can do a chalk mark on a light mark on a dark background. So that's just some of the supplies. Once again, they're in your handout. And then the other thing I do is when I'm adding just the batting to the back do the Trapunto, I want to hold it in place so it doesn't get folded under the hoop where I can't see it. So I do use some tape to hold it under there so it doesn't kind of get wrinkled up. So enough yamma. Let's go to the machine. And what I want to do is I want to take you through step by step of this little dinosaur block so that you can see the process. We're going to do the outline, we're going to do the trimming on the back, and then we're also going to use the automatic feature in the Altair where we automatically add stippling around the block to really make that pop out. I can't wait to unpack this for you. We'll go to the Altair and let's do some really cool dinosaur Trapunto. Okay, here we are at the beautiful Altair. Let's go through this process. Now, adding Trapunto to your quilt does require this extra step. And yes, it'll add time to your quilting, but I think it really can give you some really neat effects. So what we're going to do is we're going to do this little dinosaur. I'm going to show you how I take the outline, stitch that, make it into an outline in IQ Designer, stitch that in wash away thread. I'm going to cut away the back and then put some stippling around it automatically with the machine. So let's get busy. Let's go to the screen of the machine. So here I am at the screen of the machine, and I found my dinosaur under novelty. Oh, no, 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 I lied. I found him under Kids Corner. There he is right there. Isn't he cute? Now, we're not going to use the whole dinosaur. We're just going to do the outline. And always look at your embroidery designs, because if you see a dark outline around the whole embroidery, you can use that as a quilting design or just an outline design. Now, I've already taken my dinosaur and I've already started him and I've adjusted him. So I put him in the memory of the machine. There he is right now. Okay, set. Now, the first thing we're going to need to do is we're going to take our dinosaur, adjust anything we need to do as far as size or orientation or placement or whatever, and then we need to take an outline. So we need to send that outline to IQ Designer. When we go into Edit, there's this little flower right here. We're going to use the stipple a little bit later on, but if I touch the flower, that tells the machine to automatically take an outline of our item. Now, I'm going to be stitching this down and I'm going to be trimming away the batting. So I kind of want this distance to be a little bit inside. So I'm just going to hit minus, and that's going to take that outline a little bit deeper into my embroidery. It's never going to be seen, and it doesn't really matter, but you can see, I hope, just a little bit it's on the inside. Now, when I touch memory, it's going to send it to IQ Designer, and I'm going to pull it up in the stamp patterns, which is the icon that looks just like this. So, okay, and that sends it off to IQ Designer. Now, I'd put my design into the memory of the machine. I've already done that, as you saw. And because I'm going to recall him a little bit later, because I want to put that outline for the Trapunto down first and then put my little dinosaur on top of it. So we're just going to go to, I've already put it into memory. We're going to go to IQ Designer. Here we are, where all the magic creativity happens. So do you remember this icon? I'm going to touch that. Do you remember that icon? I'm going to touch that, and there's my dinosaur right now. You can see I've done this technique with some other stuff as well. So here is my outline. Okay. And that's going to bring it to the workspace of IQ Designer. Now that's exactly the outline I need to do the Trapunto. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to change it to the minimal stitching that I have, which is this double run. And I usually choose a bright color. Why? Well, I want to be able to see that when I've changed the outline, I've changed the whole outline. Now you could have multiple different parts of this. If there's an interior outline, you're probably going to have to draw that. And I've made a separate video for that called Background Quilting Using IQ Designer. That video was, I believe, in July of 2021. Let's see. July of 2021. And there's a handout for that as well. So you might want to go check that out if you want to do some interior stuff. Remember, you don't want to make your outlines necessarily too fussy, because you're going to have to cut around that batting, and small little areas are going to be more challenging. So just keep that in mind. Okay, so here we go. We need to put that outline on, we need to put that type of stitching on the outline. So I touch the bucket in the line properties menu and then touch the outline. And the whole thing turned red. Now, if I wasn't talking, that would have taken me about 20 seconds flat. Let's send it off to the land of embroidery. Next. Now, I can change the stitch length. It doesn't really matter. I can see that I have that double run stitch. When I hit preview, it's going to show me the outline of my little dinosaur. Check. So now when I hit set, that's going to send it off to the land of embroidery. Okay, here he is. Now, I'm going to do this all in a single hooping. If you're going to do a bigger quilt, like this quilt is right here, you're just going to do this process on all the different areas of your quilt, and then take it out of the hoop and trim that batting. I'm going to do the process so that you can see the whole thing in this single hooping, and I'm going to make like a little mini quilt with my little dinosaur. But remember, this is probably a multi-step process if you're doing a much larger quilt. So in this instance, I'm going to bring in the embroidery right now to put directly on top of that. Otherwise, I would be doing my Trapunto, unhooping it, putting it back in, and then using my IQ positioning app to make sure I've positioned everything where it needs to be when I get the whole quilt put together. But let's add that dinosaur. And I want to show you that you can just use parts of everything that you have and get more quilting designs than you think you might have. So here he is. Let's add that dinosaur. Remember, I had him in the memory of the machine. There he is. Set. Now, there he is. That other stitching is down below him, that outline stitching. And I'm really only going to stitch the different parts of him. And so let me show you what those look like. So for this particular dinosaur, I'm going to come into how I can change the color, which lets me preview the different colors of the design. So if you can see, that is just part of the outline. In this particular embroidery, it comes in different parts. There's another part. There's another part. So I'm just going to stitch him, not stitching the colors, but just stitch the outline. We'll get to that in just a sec. So now I'm going to add that stippling around the whole outside edge. And that's this button I promised you we were coming back to. When I touch that, that adds stippling around my entire dinosaur. Now I am using the 5x7 magnetic hoop. You can use whatever hoop comes with the Altair, and there's other hoops available too. But let's take this stippling and make sure it only fits in this 5x7 hoop. That's really simple. Up here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to toggle through until I find my 5x7 hoop. There it is. Now, I can tell the machine how densely I want my stippling to be. And I want it pretty close to make this dinosaur stand out. So I'm going to take the spacing down as low as it can go, which is 0.08. The distance, well, I want it pretty close to that dinosaur, don't I? So I'm not going to change the distance away from the outline at all. So when I hit preview, this is just checking it to make sure I like what I see. And I like what I see. So if I wanted to change it, I could. If I wanted to make it a little bit less, I can hit preview again, and it's a little bit bigger. That's okay too. Now when I hit OK, it's going to send this off to the embroidery and add it to the designs I already have on there. So when I hit OK, now I have a dinosaur, and I have the trapunto, the dinosaur, and the background stippling. Now what I've done is I've already gone ahead, as you saw before, and I stitched that outline in wash away thread. Here's the important thing to remember. As soon as you stitch it, then you're going to take your wash away thread away, put it in a separate safe deposit box so that you know you're not using your wash away thread on any other part of your project. And what I also do is I use a larger embroidery needle for that wash away thread. And you can even slow down your machine if you want to. Like I said, if you live in a humid climate, then that thread might get a little bit more fragile. So I've already done that. I put the polar fleece, in this case, on the back. I stitched around it and I trimmed that polar fleece away. Now let's stitch our dinosaur. I've put quilting thread in the top and a matching quilting thread in the bobbin. And we're just going to stitch that outline of our dinosaur. And I'm going to do it in white till I get that really kind of cool effect. I can do it in any color I want. So now, the very first thing that's going to come up when I go to embroidery is that outline. I've already stitched it. So let's go past that. And go to the next color. Now, I'm going to go to the very first outline color and stitch that around my dinosaur. You can see the colors as they come up here. There's that very first one. Okay. Now, I'm going to stitch him on top of my dinosaur and get a really cool quilted effect. I'm going to stitch him, all the different parts. As I stitch each one, I'm going to be right back and I'm going to show you how that stippling adds on to the back. So let's stitch all these separate outlines so I get a really cool effect. So he's all finished and he turned out crazy cool. Let me take him out of the hoop. And I'll bring him up so that you can see him. Look how cool he turned out. Look at this. Now I'm pretty comfortable with free motion quilting, but stippling this close, my friends, I'm gonna let the machine do it. Now see how cool he is? And then on the back side, let's show the back, how fun he is on the back side as well. And that's what he would look like without adding that the colored polar fleece. He's cool either way. I can imagine a whole quilt done this way. And this technique, oh my gosh, it has a little bit of time, but you can really get some cool effects. Now the Baby Lock Altair has IQ Designer, and that makes this possible. But it's a great embroidery machine, even if you don't use it for that. Or if you want to do sewing, it's a great sewing machine as well. I'm going to shoot it off to George. He's going to tell you a little bit more about this machine. I've done a whole bunch of other videos that explore all the different things that this machine, not all the things, because it can do so much. So take it away, George. The Baby Lock Altair, well, you can get some pretty fun stuff with it.
Thanks, Cathy. As usual, that was an incredible presentation. The Baby Lock Altair is dollar for dollar the most advanced machine in the industry. It has a large 9.5 by 14-inch embroidery area, plus 494 built-in beautiful designs, 30 of the most amazing fonts that you can arc and array and edit, plus many large, beautiful monograms. You have the ability to create a design without a computer. With the IQ Designer, you can take an image from a phone, send it to the machine, and it turns into beautiful embroidery instantly. You also have an automatic applique creator to create great borders around names and other embroidery designs. Plus, of course, we love our never miss needle threader, and it also cuts all the jump stitches that you want. Now, it's not just for embroidery. This is an incredible machine with 11.25-inch opening. It also has a automatic fabric sensor. This fabric sensor senses heavy fabric like denim and sews automatically from there. It will also sew on lighter fabric like tricot. It will sew elastic. It's incredible. Now, for the real difficult fabric and for quilting, it has a digital dual feed with a belt system that controls all fabrics perfectly. It also has a laser guide, so you can guide for that perfect seam allowance. It's incredible. As I mentioned, this is dollar for dollar the most advanced machine in the industry. We have a special package right now. The total package value is $14,999, but we have it on sale for $8,999. We're offering free shipping across the country, as well as we have interest-free payments of under $188 a month. But that's not all. We have a special bonus for a limited time, and while supplies last, we're including 63 spools of beautiful embroidery thread, 2 separate design collections by Anita Good Design, which has over 600 design files in all different styles. We're including stabilizer, all kinds of needles, bobbins, and a membership to Love of Knowledge. We're here, you're going to see all kinds of demonstrations and techniques on the Baby Lock Altair and other sewing techniques. This is for a limited time, but I also mentioned we have interest-free payments. Now, for those who don't want to finance, we have even a better bonus. So give us a call at 1-800-865-9664 or click on the link to order today. Bye for now.